Okay, are we working? All right, good. Cult Ostromancy? That's okay. I understand it's late in a lot of places. We appreciate you making it all the same. Hello, Peachy. Good to see you, as always. Had to make sure to get my logo mug. Hey, Dustin. Can you all believe it? Today is actually 1 year since we launched the channel. Exactly. Hello, Catherine. Good to see you. Thank you. This old thing. Me and this hat's been through a lot together. Hey, Senor Pizzati Malo. Thank you, and happy star to you. I hope everyone's enjoying their spring. So far, mine's been a little crazy because our average temperature is right around the 60s, which I don't mind. But then randomly, for no reason, it'll jump. Like we had a day when it hit 90 for no reason. And then that night, it dipped down to 50. So make up your mind. We'll give some time for people to jump in here because I did hit the start a minute early so we could have the sound up and running. Has everybody been having a good week? Hello, Kara Akana. I like that name. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but I like it. And fair warning, if I butcher your all's names, I'm really sorry. I have trouble with a lot of names. But I shall do my best. Well, I'm glad I made your week better. Uh-oh, people, I see a Linda up in here. Well, you got lost in the right place. Let's say that for a change, Linda. What's more important than being here? I have no idea on that one. Like watching a gecko. No, I would have to say being here is more important than a gecko. Thank you, Linda. Well, this week has been pretty crazy for me, honestly. We had a lot going on. The ritual I've been working on and trying to get perfected, I did get to the next stage of it, which ended up with a 10th evocation. Mean little buggers. And now the next stage of it is actually a self-expansion style practice. Which I kind of knew the expansion thing was part of it because that's where it went pear-shaped on me the first time I tried it. Well, Catherine, you got a lot of catching up to do. put out a lot of videos. Uh, okay. Well, blood magic is a viable form of magic. It really is. And I know several practitioners who specialize in it. I've used it, but one misconception about it is that it takes large quantities. Um, you could actually have a functioning blood magic practice with just diabetic lances. And there's no need for sacrifices or the like. That's all in works of fiction and dark horror and all that stuff. That actually might be a good thing to do a video on at some point and dive into. Now, I do know some practitioners who try to go all out and like kill a chicken, and then of course they cook it for dinner in order to say it was humane and useful and not wasteful. But I mean, it is doable. Well, Catherine, I actually know actually the best blood magician I know. Instead of drawing blood, she actually draws on the energy of her blood without ever breaking her skin while it flows through her veins. And she uses her own heartbeat to focus on that blood flowing through her. So it's actually possible to utilize that same energy without ever breaking the skin. It just takes a bit more focus and concentration. I agree, Spirit Messiah. There is no need for sacrifices at all. That's why I said there are those over there. But in all my research and testing, I've not found anything that requires it. It is similar to energy work, though you will notice that energy that you pull from just general life force and in the world around you, and the energy that blood itself puts out is very different, and I'm not entirely sure why. That was one of the reasons I actually first looked into blood magic, because if your personal energy is your personal energy, how does blood energy differ? That was where the disconnect was for me. But there is actually a tremendously different vibration and, I guess you could say, energetic concentration to it. So it is a fascinating topic, and it's not one that's talked about a lot for many, many reasons. First off, let's be honest, all the people out there who's using sacrifices really gives it a bad name straight out of the gate. So bringing it into a level logical topic of discussion has been really hard over the years. So it's more of a very close-knit group that no, you don't take them back to the pound. You keep them, you cuddle them, you feed them, and you let them run around your house like crazy cats. Just don't give them to my wife. Do I think a shaman can and should work with dragons? Yeah. I know a lot of shamans who do work with dragons. And considering dragons love trance work, which, let's be honest, trance work, drumming, and those kinds of things are like the backbone of shamanic work. It's a natural fit. It really is a very natural fit. And there for a long time, the way I'd done my practice, because I leaned heavily into trance work. A lot of people actually mistook me for a shaman because everything in my practice that I was working with dragons was very shamanic. So yeah, I think if a shaman wants to work with dragons, they definitely should, because they're already working with spirits and entities from other worlds, and they're already walking the worlds. So yeah, there's going to be dragons in those worlds too. You might as well befriend them and have that relationship and build to your repertoire of friends and allies. Landa, don't you do it. Don't you do it. It took me years to break her from petting cats as she walked home from work at times. And then she couldn't figure out why they followed her home. Nerdy questions are fine. We don't mind those. Now, damn it, Linda, no. We just got to a pet-free house, and I'm trying to keep it that way for a while at least, please. Catherine, if you are seeing dragons often and like everything you're seeing, as far as what the individual vision means, that I would need to know the individual vision. However, if you're constantly seeing dragons, in my experience, that means that they are reaching out and trying to get your attention for some reason. Whether it is they have something specific to teach you, which generally deals with balance. When you're talking about dragons, they're all about the balance. Or that they are just wanting to work with you more directly and more in depth, which could mean a path into a dragon magic practice or a dragon magic like practice. Okay, no ganging up on me on these cats, people. If we get another animal, we're looking at getting a dog because it's my turn to get a pet. Say no to GATTO. Oh, no problem. I'm always happy to answer a question. That's one reason I started this up. Well, he's welcome to try. Oh, got to. I should have known that. No problem, Catherine. Okay, how does one work with dragons? Okay, I gotta sum up dragon magic here. Primarily through meditation and trance work starting out to get in contact with them. And then you can use other forms of traditional magics, divinations, evocations, even journey work. The big kicker when it comes to dragon magic as opposed to other systems is dragons actually do require a bit more of a friendship from the magicians they work with. So if you're expecting to just call a dragon up, make a request, dismiss the dragon, get the request, that's not really building a relationship or a friendship, which is what they're actually wanting from you. And with that friendship, they will teach you and help you as well. And a large part of this is working with what's known as your guardian dragon. and your co-magician, which these are two dragons that work with you and stay with you 24/7, and they help mediate you through the working with the 9 rulers of the elements and all the dragons under them. Um, but yeah, the bulk of it is really done through meditation and trance work. In As you get deeper into dragon magic, you can shift over to like evocation style work, which is why we're actually working on doing the dragon magic classes and the 101 class that's releasing mid-April, which is still on schedule, people. So yay. Oh, actually, that is one announcement. We actually have finished filming all but one section of the class. We only have one section left to film and edit. And then it's just polishing it and getting it ready for launch. Yes, Catherine. We did do a video on finding your guardian dragon, and we also put up a video for finding your co-magician. And there's also a Dragon's Flame ritual available that does help pull in the draconic energy to help attract dragons and make working with them easier as well. Oh yeah, we got a lot of announcements today. I actually made a list because we all know how forgetful I can be. Merrick, to the D&D Wizard Focus thing. They can be beneficial because, ironically, that is one thing where D&D pulled from Real Magic again. When you look at any tool in Magic, it is essentially a focus that allows you to focus energy and direct it easier. It's not needed, but it can be helpful. So yeah, they can be beneficial, especially when starting out. You may not be as good at directing energy or whatnot. One way I've heard them described is think of a water hose. You just turn the hose on, technically the water's flowing, but the ability to control it, direct it, and the amount of pressure it has is drastically different if you was to actually put like a sprayer nozzle on it, to where now you can control it, turn it off and on, and it does apply more pressure to it. So it's not necessary, it's not needed, but it can be beneficial. And just with the water hose, a lot of you probably already know this, you can actually learn to use your thumb to create the pressure that's the nozzle would create if you wanted to. So even in Magic, you can learn to manipulate, control, and direct these energies without the tool as well. What may oh Lord. I fell into it. I lost a bet. I wish I could say there was some grand vision, but it wasn't. I actually studied and researched for a long time, and I met somebody who owned a metaphysical shop. And they hassled me for about a year to start teaching classes at their shop. So my grand plan was to write some basic classes on meditation, grounding and shielding, trance work, the magical basics, and post those and take class signups. Now, I was dead certain no one would sign up, and I'd be able to say, I told you so. Problem is, within 48 hours, I had like 15 students. And she's the one that got to tell me I told you so. And I honestly panicked because I was like, oh crap, am I going to be able to do this? But I'm a man of my word, so I kept my word and I went in and I taught the class to the best of my ability. And everyone who took the class absolutely loved it. And it was it probably took a year of teaching those classes before I actually realized I'm not too bad at this. So yeah, I kind of tripped and fell into this. Kara, you're welcome. That's why I do this. I fully believe information should be shared. And my goal for the channel is to share as much as I can for anyone seeking. Because classes can get expensive, so I think it's a good idea to have some functioning information to know if you even are interested in it before you ever pay for a class. Kane, welcome, my man. Good to see you again. Oh, we got a full house tonight. Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a technological person, and I was told probably years ago I should go online and do it. Yeah. So it took me a while to build up the courage to do this. And I'm actually glad I did because I can reach a lot more people. Well, Mathis, that's the only way I know how to do it. I tell you what I know, and I'll happily admit when I don't know it. I'm not a very good liar. I'm not. The closest to a good lie I can get is a poker face in a poker game. That's it. If I have to talk, it falls apart. But yeah, the class is coming. Like I said, mid-April. We're still on time. We only got one section left to film, and something we're doing for the anniversary. And this ain't temporary. This is permanent. If you jump over to the online school, the meditation class, that big, massive, giant meditation class that we said we probably should have broke into 3 classes, we've cut the price. That whole class is only $50 now. So if anyone's been interested in the meditation class, there you go. We cut the price to bring it more in line with the affordability that we're trying to get with the classes now. And instead of going in and re-editing and redoing the whole thing and splitting it up into 3 classes, I said, screw it, just slash the price. Because y'all have been great, and it's just a great way to give a lot more back. And, well, there you go. Ani there, she's actually taking the class. So you want a non-filming opinion, there you go. Oh, and for those who have been bugging me, we do have a few things that you all have been asking about. First off, we did get a working Dragon Mystic Discord going, which I'll be dropping a link when this video officially goes live too. And there is a Patreon only section of the Discord. So we do have a Patreon page now, Mathis. I'm looking at you. And we did launch it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and be honest. Y'all know I'm not good at computers. So we did launch it a very simple Patreon page. I'm hoping to improve it as time goes on. But we've done 3 tiers for starting, a 5, a 10, and a 15. Just a quick summary of them. Tier 1, you get early access to any classes, so you'll be notified before anyone else when they're going live. In Tier 2, you get all of that. Plus, I will start including all Tier 2 people into a monthly ritual that I do to benefit health, protection, prosperity, just general life improvement kind of stuff. It's something I've been doing for my family for a long time. And I'm going to start actually including my Tier 2 Patreon people in that. And Tier 3, we add into that a Patreon only live stream which we're hoping to do at least once a month. And that live stream, it'll be a live stream where I actually work and teach the little mini courses or the seminars that I used to do when I would do public appearances and stuff. And if you're in tier 3, that's absolutely free to you. You just come on to the live stream. It'll be a private live stream. The link will be dropped in the tier 3 Patreon area. And you can attend that, ask questions on the class if you're interested. And since the live streams do stay as a video, we'll leave the live streams available for probably a week or two before we delete them. So even if you're tier 3 and can't make it live, you can still have a week or two to watch it if you want to. So yeah, there are those little things that people have been asking for. Let's get some of these questions answered real quick. How long is that class? The meditation class? It's been a while since I've done the math on it, but there's well over I think there's 10 to 14 hours of video at least in that class. I mean, it's a pretty massive class. And if you actually do the exercises and the working and work through the path working that's included in it, you could probably work in that meditation class for 2 or 3 months if you worked every day and did the path working, if I remember correctly. It's a big class. And I know most of the meditation classes to go in for 1 hour is about $20-25. So is it 7+ hours? Oh, it's easy 7+ hours. I'd have to go into the school and add it up. I may thinking of the pre-edit content. You know what? Let me see here if I can actually by chance see that for you all. Get an idea. Because I have a screen here. I didn't think I'd be needing to answer. See, this is the crap I don't think of. People have good questions and I don't think of them. Let's see here. Preview course curriculum. That's 1, 2. Oh yeah, there's an easy 7 hours. Easy. Because there's 3 sections and there's usually 5 or 6 modules per section. So yeah, it's a pretty large class. So yeah, I think after editing it does drop to 7+. So it's probably 7 to 10 hours. Oh yeah, it's going to take you at least a month to finish that, if not longer, because some of those path workings are supposed to be done for like a week. But yeah, it's a pretty good sized class, and you do get lifetime access to it, and the meditations and everything are replayable and reusable. And if at any time we do an update to the class, the updates are free. Kane, the peripheral flashes of light. You are actually seeing some of the actual light manifest from that flame ritual, because during the ritual, the flames are actually coming down on you. So the more in tune you get and the more your senses open, it's not uncommon to actually see the light itself manifest. So one neat thing about that is if you're doing that in like a pitch black room, you'll actually notice it looks like there's a light source in the room with you. as your senses open up, because your arcane sense is picking up the light generated by the flames, which your brain will overlay into the physical room, thereby creating a light that shouldn't be there. It's really creepy, but really cool. Sub elements are a thing. It's actually a video I'm wanting to do on dragon magic. Dragons have what they call cross elements. Now, the first cross elements that dragons start working with and teaching with are crossing the basic elements. So, like earth and fire. Well, in earth and fire, you're going to get stuff like deserts, sand, lava, those kinds of things. Earth and water actually is one of the things that can generate ice, though ice also can loop over into the air category. So ice actually works as almost a triple cross, because you got 3 elements that can actually be placed in that ice category. And since ice does have an energy signature of its own that's very unique, though it can mirror and be similar to air, water, or earth, it does in and of itself have a unique signature. There are dragons that specialize in working with it. So in these sub or cross elements, there are dragons that work within them. The tricky part is, so if you were to say ice dragons as a category, which it is a category, the reason people don't try to talk about them as much is it gets confusing, because you ask, who's the ruler of the ice dragons? Well, technically you got 3, because the 3 base elements that would make up ice, all 3 rulers have their own little grouping of ice dragons. So I think a lot of people avoid that conversation because it expands out real quickly and gets confusing. But yeah, they are a thing. Well, Peachy, I am proud to have you here. I look forward to seeing you pop up in the Magical Coffee Hour and here on the live streams, which that's actually something I need to be telling you all. For those who didn't see the Magical Coffee Hour Sunday, me and Linda are actually going to be moving the streaming of Magical Coffee Hour straight here to YouTube. So it's easy to get to. YouTube's usually really good about letting y'all know when I go live and when we're starting to stream. So, yeah, we'll be right here on Sundays. You mean for the podcast or you, Linda? Because if you're moving Sunday and didn't tell me, I will put you on a stepladder and whoop you. What do I suggest newer magicians do? That's actually great. Honestly, practice your skills. Practice your basics as a new magician. So, first off, start working on meditation. The reason I launched the meditation course first, even though, let's be honest, most people think meditation boring. Yeah, business decision wise, not a good idea. But I'm not actually in a business, I'm in teaching. I'm trying to teach seekers and magicians on their path. No matter your path, meditation is foundational and core to anything and everything you do. So practice your meditation. Now, if your meditation's solid, start focusing on your arcane senses. Start developing your arcane sight, your arcane hearing. Because in magic, whether it be trance work or evocation, those 2 of your arcane senses are going to be the major ones in play. So you want to develop those early if you can. That's your ability to see energy, the ability to see entities, and the ability to communicate with them and hear them in their responses. So those are the 2 I would start developing first and foremost. And if you haven't already, construct an astral sanctum and start doing rituals and meditations in it, because that will help you, again, develop your meditation and your arcane senses all around while you're doing that. And that is a great place to start for new magicians. And there is a video on the arcane senses on the channel. I go over some basic exercises to help you develop them. And I know the arcane sight is much, much harder to develop. So there's a free course over at the school completely focused on developing your arcane sight. Great way to spend your time in lockdown because you can do a lot of work in that. Great question. And if you've done all that stuff, work on a new skill or something. If you haven't already, definitely, if you're interested in it, reach out and try to contact your guardian dragon and start building that relationship. Because when you're isolated, those dragons are great people to talk to. Yes, a jet went by. They're still flying. One thing about this, they're not letting up on military readiness. Ice dragons are absolutely gorgeous to work with. I have one in my grimoire. First time I met that dragon, it was just like a desolate ice barren land and what I thought was a mountain until the mountain started to move and the ice break away from it. Catherine, Magical Coffee Hour. It was a podcast me and Linda started over on Twitch, where she throws questions at me and I attempt to answer them. And a large part of it is she'll bring pop culture into it and ask how pop culture maybe got this right or did they get it wrong? Is this a thing? Is it not a thing? It's a bit laid back. It's fun, goofy. But yeah, it's just a little podcast where we do let go and the topics aren't generally as serious. But we also take questions from viewers, and me and Linda will take any question you got. So, I mean, we've had everything from video games to Sabrina the Teenage Witch, talked about quite a bit. I may have to, oh, Lord, Linda. Actually, yeah. Another announcement that for those who've been asking about my consultations that I do in, locally and in real life, we're moving those to an online platform. So you can email me and we will set up a time to do a video consultation. Now, consultations it's a 1 hour consultation. It is $50, but what you get in that is I will talk with you. I will help you work through whatever it is you're working on or having difficulty with. If I feel a reading is necessary for helping us get you moving on your problem, I'll include a reading, no additional charge. And at the end of the consultation, once we're done, I will actually go into my ritual room and I will do spell work specifically tailored and designed to help you overcome whatever it is you're working on. So all that for one price. That's what my consultations involve. But unfortunately, I can't find any vendor or anything that'll let me set it up well. But so you do have to kind of email me and we'll set the time up. I'll put you in the schedule and I'll email you an invoice. Unfortunately, due to like 10 people not paying, I do have to kind of accept payment first. There's always some stupid person who ruins it for other people. What does lightning come from? Actually, that one's wild because lightning, generally, the three primaries that lightning is associated with is fire, air, and earth. So it's kind of like, in a weird way, it's the opposite of ice because, You're just changing out that one element. Now, this is only if we're working with the lower elements, because it gets even more complicated if we start including the 5 higher elements in Dragon Magic. See, now Linda's got an idea. Start learning guitar, pick up an instrument. Yeah, that's also something to do. I've dove into, I've been working on that ritual, so I've been focusing on that a lot, as well as, getting stuff up and running for you all. Abraham, you could try that. The only downside to that would be possibly falling asleep. Anytime you hear people say don't meditate lying down, the main reason for that is you fall asleep. And the meditation trance state is kind of, you go so deep into meditation, and that trance state is somewhere between awake and asleep. So, and this has actually been monitored by science, that right in that space before you fall asleep, but you're still awake, is when your brain waves like spike super, super high. And that's also the same brain waves that are generated in a deep trance. So it's kind of holding that sweet spot. But if you don't fall asleep, shouldn't be an issue. It should work just fine, because at the end of the day, how you get comfortable during your meditation, as long as you're comfortable, it doesn't matter. But I think I've only met one person who doesn't fall asleep lying down while meditating so far. I'm sure there's more out there, but I've only met one who does it. Of course, he's also some weirdo that every time I see him asleep, he's sitting up in a chair. So maybe he can't sleep lying down. I don't know. But yeah, crystals can help. Your soul can go to different places, and it's not uncommon for a particular place to call to it for some reason. I can't say it's always the same place, because there are people who, it will just randomly travel to different places. But generally, if it's constantly going to the same place, that place will have some meaning or some lesson. And I would recommend taking a look at that in meditation. Even see if you can visit that location through trance work. I know if you're skilled at soul travel, that would be one way to do it. I know soul travel is a bit advanced for most people, so yeah, meditation and trance work would be the way I would start with that. And the way I would do it is actually just envision yourself there while you're meditating. And once you feel the energy of the place like you do when your soul goes there, take your time, look around, start asking questions. See if there's any entities around, perhaps dragons, fae, spirit animals. I mean, let's be honest, what could be there is endless. But that would be how I would handle that particular instance, Catherine. Yes, Linda, you are here to annoy people. Primarily me. She loves to pick on me. In theory, yes. But they're actually, ice and lightning are actually more solid and stable than the maelstrom itself. And it's really hard to explain, because I know when I describe maelstrom itself, I describe it as a massive arcane storm. But even lightning itself is more stable than the arcane energy that makes up that maelstrom. Because the maelstrom is so unformed and unshaped. It's like pure arcane energy straight into being. It has no shape, no formation, no direction yet. Yeah, Mathis, that would be considered arcane sight and arcane feeling. Yes. Um, so yeah, you're already doing well at perceiving entities around you and feeling them. So, and actually, yeah, to sight and hearing, I would actually add in the ability to feel as the third one that's most important. And to some people, feeling is easier than anything else. But feeling's also a great one because there's a lot of entities that don't like to be seen often. So if you can feel their presence enter the room, at least you know they're there. So that would also be a great one to develop. Lightning comes from Thor. Well, he's one of the lightning slingers. Sophia, are there classes on each element? If you mean as far as like dragon magic itself, um, the way we're constructing the Dragon Magic 101 through 104, there are focused path workings that will work directly with each element. So by the end of the 101 class, you will have already done a week's worth path working with each of the first four rulers. And then in the 102 class, we take that to the next level, and we're actually going to start working with what's called contact evocation. And you're going to do a path working not only with the rulers, but several dragons that work with them. And then the 103 class, that's when we start working with those higher rulers, the other five. And it's going to work in the same way where you're going to dive in deep and you're really going to start working specifically with each element. So you are learning about them. So in a way, the answer to that question is yes. In Dragon Magic itself, as far as have I written specific classes for each element on a general purpose, not so much. I hope that answers your question, Sophia. But yeah, I do plan to have in these classes an in-depth dive not only into the rulers but the elements, and I want to include several dragons that already I know for a fact are helpful. They've come through for me. Um, so those dragons, their sigils, what they do, you'll be working with them and getting all that information as well. Mortimer, the ritual's going pretty good. They threw a curveball at me. We now are up to 10 evocations because basically the dragon that I guess you could say overlooks the 9 rulers, you got to evoke his tail also, which we were able to get that done this week. But then there's the expansion part where you're actually expanding your consciousness and receiving massive amounts of information and energy. That's currently where I'm at. To my understanding, at the end of that, you essentially cross through to the other side of the void. And on the other side of the void is where I'm going to guess or hope that's when I finally get to actually work directly with the dragon and the dragoness. Because seriously, people, this ritual is getting intense. We got to have we got to get to the end of it sometime. You guys are pushing me to my limits here. Does Nelly count as what? Catherine, yes, it is normal to feel a little floaty while meditating. In fact, a lot of people, the reason they find trance work hard, when you go from that deep meditation to a full trance state, a lot of people say they feel like they're falling. So if you've ever been in a car when it hits a dip, that kind of weightless sensation that kind of startles you, um, there's a lot of people who feel that, and that startling sensation actually snaps them out of the meditation state, which is why they have trouble getting into trance work. Which is why I do recommend the astral sanctum, because it kind of creates that bridge between trance and meditation, and you can avoid that kind of dropping sensation somewhat. Makes it a lot easier. But yeah, it is a pretty natural feeling. I actually enjoy it myself. That's about as close to a roller coaster as I get. I don't like roller coasters. Hmm. Black with I would actually probably place that, Merrick, as a that might be a spirit or darkness dragon. So that would be in the higher echelon in the elements. But that's only in general because, again, dragons can shapeshift and change their color so much it gets tricky. Welcome back, Catherine. I'm trying to catch up with some of these comments. Um, I did put a few techniques in the Arcane Senses video to work on feeling. Um, though starting out, those are the best techniques I know. Your next best bet is if you have an entity that you can work with and that you trust, the two of you can actually try to work to feel each other's presence, um, or work to direct energy at each other. And a mundane way to do this is you can actually replace the entity with your friend. So you can actually try to feel a friend's emotional state or their personal aura from a distance across the room and move closer to each other. One good way to do it is to use a blindfold and have them approach you slowly. I do recommend earplugs too, so you're not tempted to cheat. And you try to feel their aura when it gets close to you. Those would be great ways to work on developing it. I know not everybody has a buddy that's willing to help them with that, but the techniques I put in the Arcane Senses video for sense of touch, those are great ways to get started with it as well. Pete, have you been working with Tor Grimoire, Peachy? Clairsentience is actually somewhat common. Actually, I'd say it might even be more common than most. It's just people don't know what it is. Because have you ever been um, somewhere and you feel like there's a presence in the room, or you feel like somebody's watching you? That's you tapping into that clairsentience. You're feeling something that isn't tangible. So that is kind of that clairsentience that people talk about. Oh, I was talking. Yeah, I was talking about that. You got me there, Linda. No, I did last week exactly what I said, and after I got off, I went downstairs and I searched. None of my streaming services seem to have that thing on play. So I am going to have to either buy the flipping DVD or try and rent it from a red box somewhere. But no, I have not yet seen it. And none of my friends appear to have the DVD either. What would be a good reason or best option for dealing? Okay. Well, Dragons of Darkness and Dragons of Chaos differ drastically, Abraham. Dragons of Darkness, they do deal with energies of like the night, lunar energies, cool energies. So they do have that kind of cool, wintry vibe about them. They're also very nurturing, healing. Um, they work in subtle, soft ways. They are definitely more on the quiet side. Let's do things and get them done unseen. So there's actually a great deal of healing power that can be found in darkness. And one example of this is, people talk about plants get nurturing from the light. Well, if you take a plant and you stick it in the light of high noon 24/7 every day, it'll die. It cannot rejuvenate. It needs that cool, healing, nurturing of the night to actually live. It's part of the cycle. Chaos element is about creation and destruction. It kind of maintains everything in the multiverse. So when something becomes useless, stagnant, or unneeded, the chaos element is to come in, break it down, take that energy back to the void, and then at the same time bring energy out of the void to use it to create something new. So this is why a lot of people get in trouble when they're working with chaos dragons, because most of us have something in our life that is not good for us. It's holding us back. It's creating a blockage. And many of these things are things we like. They're things we choose to have in our life. So if you walk up to a chaos dragon and you tell them, I need these blockages removed, but you yourself have not actually become aware of what's holding you back, and you don't truly know yourself, that dragon's going to swoop in and he's going to clean house, and you are not going to like it. And in a lot of times, those magicians will even try to fight back and resist those changes, which makes it so much worse. And that's why people really aren't comfortable working with chaos dragons, because they come in and they move in a huge way. And they will create a great deal of change in your life. But part of that creation is also destruction. So if you're baking a cake in chaos, it's equal parts chaos and creation. It's equal parts destruction and creation. So you have to have a full understanding of that when you approach it. And that's really why people get in trouble with them. Kind of the same thing with the maelstrom. It's the maelstrom's more about getting things moving, so it'll just kind of blast through them. Think like a tsunami tearing through a dam. But since the maelstrom's already on the side of creation, where something's already existing, it's more just about rawly breaking down barriers and getting things in motion so that they are moving into creation. But at the same time, again, if you're trying to hold a door closed while a tsunami's coming, you're going to get the crap knocked out of you. It's just that simple. So this is where the knowledge and experience of the magician and understanding themselves really comes into play. And that's why we're setting the course up with these path workings. So you're working through these path workings, you're learning about yourself, you're building yourself up as you go so you can avoid these pitfalls. That would still knock me into the spirit or darkness category because I've seen both styles dragons have pupilless blue eyes. Though I do tend to lean more to spirit with that because I've seen fewer darkness dragons with those blue eyes. Mathis, I'd start working on your grounding and shielding if your clairsentience is at that level. You cannot ground and shield enough when you're opening your arcane senses because you will start picking up everyone's crap, and that's stress and anxiety you just don't need. So pull your aura in, make sure you're behind your shield, put your shield up, and don't let their crap stick to you. Check out the grounding and shielding video I got. Yeah, he's good at popping that head up there, Peachy. Well, it seems he's took a liking to you. Happy to answer your question, Abraham. Well, there you go. Trust your gut. You're the one that's seen him, in my opinion. I've seen a lot of dragons try to do that. Dragons are real protective of anyone young, and that's kind of the reason they treat humans almost like toddlers a lot of times because the oldest human is like it's still a freaking hatchling to a dragon. Um, but dragons are really protective of children and young anything. So they will quickly take up a parental role if it's needed. It's really kind of sweet. Sylvia, yes, chaos work does involve transmutation. In fact, draconic alchemy in and of itself does work heavily with transmutation and working with energies and changing them, as well as changing vibrations. But yeah, chaos work, when you get to that, you are talking massive transmutation. And it's not even taking something and changing it into something similar. It's like, no, this is unneeded. Get rid of it, destroy it, blow it up with a nuke. Okay, we're going to build something new completely over here. So it's like blowing up a car to build a swimming pool. They have no correlation whatsoever, but this one wasn't helping you. This one will. So it's like the extreme end of transmutation when you get to working with chaos dragons. And for as scary as chaos work can be, most of the chaos dragons I've met and worked with, they have a tremendous sense of humor. I guess they have to with the work they do. They can also be stubborn, so be prepared for that. Yep, Peachy, that's pretty true. That's not a dumb question at all, Catherine. Actually, there's not usually dumb questions unless it's left unasked. Transmutation is where you take one thing and you change it into something else. I think the most common thing most people know about is changing lead into gold. That's an example of transmutation. So when we're talking about spiritual or magical alchemy, it's usually a change in our life or in us specifically. And one great example of this, you can actually transmute an emotion to a different energy because emotions do generate energy of their own. And this is something dragons taught me early on. You can take anger in its current form, unless you're fighting in a war or on a battle line somewhere. anger has very few positive uses in its current form. But it's also not good to just push it down and bottle it. So you got to get that anger out some way, somehow. Now, most people might channel this to do a workout or go running or something like that. But you can also harness that energy. And you can utilize a form of alchemy, and you can transmute that energy from anger into healing energy. And you can now use that healing energy on yourself or on another person. So now that reservoir of anger is now serving a very positive purpose, but you did transmute it before you did so. Does that make sense, Catherine? Yeah, I can see him doing that. Oh, no problem. Like I said, that's why I do these live chats. It's one thing to try and do a video, but this gives me a chance to answer questions directly that I wouldn't be able to answer otherwise. And like I said, people, I will be putting links to the Patreon and the Discord under this video when it goes live. I'm not really super sure how to drop links into the chat. Oh, here's one you all will like. So I did say I was doing consultations. You just have to email me or message me on Facebook or even in the Discord. You just got to get in touch with me so we can work out the details. But the channel is closing in on 1,000 subscribers and the 4,000 view hours we need. So what I'm going to do is anyone who comments, who likes and comments a video between now and the time we hit that goal, your name will be put into a hat or a bucket, probably a bucket because there's a lot of you. And once we hit that goal, I will be drawing and picking one of those names. That person will get a free consultation. Yeah, Linda, if you can link the Discord into the chat, you can. That would be great. I have a permanent link. I just know how to do it over here, not over here. So now, a few caveats to this. So you can actually comment and say hi below this video when the comments go active. That will count. Tuesday, when that video goes active, you can comment. That will count. So if you comment on more than one video, your name will go in more than one time. But you can only comment once per video, or you can only get one entry per video, I should say. You can comment as many times as you like, but you can get one entry per video. So that's a nice little giveaway I wanted to do for you all. It's only good for the first 100 users. So join. Did the link actually show up? I'm not seeing it. My chat's behind on some things. All right. Oh, copy and paste? Okay, I think I can do that. Hold on just a second time. When I told y'all I'm not good with computers, I was not lying. I am a caveman in a digital world. That's a Patreon link. That's not it. Aha! Found one. All right, let's see if this will work, people. Did that work? So there we go. All right. And apparently it worked because I'm seeing names popping up on my screen now that's saying people's jumping into the Discord. So yeah, okay, that worked. So that's the general Discord, and then there is a section set aside for Patreon users. So awesome. And I will say this, if you're trying to get in touch with me, the Discord will be the way to go because that's going to be the easiest, most direct route to me in most cases. That's why we built it. So the community can stay in touch. I don't know why it didn't work for you, Linda. I actually checked to see if it blocked it for some reason, but I'm not showing any blocked posts or anything. Usually it says this person tried to post this, approve it. It's not saying that. I think it's just forcing me to have to tech. I think that's the rude thing. Nope, can't be silent, Linda. You're going to have to mute us. Can't go the other way around. Well, at least we know that the Discord is up and running well. So now I will say this, if you're watching older videos and commenting on them, I can't put all those names in. So it has to be this video and the newer videos coming after it. Otherwise, I would need a bigger bucket. I would need like a 55-gallon drum. Not that I'm complaining, because, you know, that means I do actually have a lot of people who's watching the videos, but yeah. But I will be announcing the winner in, it'll be a live stream, so. And I'll also make sure it's announced in the Discord too, so that by chance you don't make it to the live stream or watch the replay, then you'll know you won. Let's see. Let me check my piece of paper, make sure I got everything. Because it would be even worse. Not, it's bad enough I forget crap. It'd really suck if I forgot it after writing it down, wouldn't it? Yes. Okay. We're doing good. Yes. Okay. And for those who missed earlier, the Dragon Magic 101 course, we're still on schedule for mid-April. And we have only one section left to shoot and edit. So I am really, really hyped about that. And the dragons are definitely staying on my case, making sure we're driving along. They actually turned my TV off the other day. I decided I was going to chill out and watch some Simpsons because I found Simpsons on Disney Plus while I was looking for How to Train Your Dragon. Why didn't y'all tell me Simpsons was on there? Anywho, they decided 3 episodes was enough and they shut everything off. They literally killed the power to the TV and the PS4 without killing power to anything else in the house. How rude is that? That is kind of a catch-22 to YouTube, Mortimer. You are not lying. Actually, you know what? I've actually hit the point with the channel where I ran into an interesting problem. So my channel's actually gotten so big that YouTube will no longer send me a notification every time I get a comment. Because I guess they figure at a certain point, your notifications will just be a mile long of comments. So I actually have to go into the back office now and check comments. I kind of got spoiled because my phone would be like, hey, somebody commented. And I'm like, cool, let me respond back. But now we're actually at a point where YouTube's like, okay, we can't be telling you with every comment. So if it starts taking me longer to respond, be patient with me. That's why the notifications are not showing up no more, because the channel's gotten to the point I have to go in and manually check it. So yeah, there is a catch-22 there. I thought something was wrong. I thought I screwed something up, so I was not Googling trying to figure out what happened, and that's when I found out about it. Which, for most things, it tends to kick in right around 900 subs, which is about when it did with me. So yeah, we are doing great on that, by the way. It's weird. It's like my chat on this computer, which is the main one, has actually just stopped after I put the link in, while the other one continues on. That is so weird. Well, guys, I grew up on Simpsons. I remember when it first started, so it's kind of a nostalgic thing for me. It's really weird to go back and watch the original animation. It's like you don't notice the growth of it until you go back. So, all right. Anybody got any other questions? No matter how big or small. Oh, wait, Peach, you got one I missed there. The forever list, like Hades? Hmm? I'm not sure I understand the reference, Peachy. I have a feeling this, once she explains it to me, I'm going to feel like an idiot too. So, oh, take that off. It's getting warm in here. Oh, okay. Well, hey, that works for me. I'm happy to give you water dragon info. If you win, we'll sit there and spend the whole hour talking about water dragons happily. Catherine, that is fine. I've had people do that. Write them down so you have them for next week, because I do stream every Friday. Also, feel free to bring them over to the Magical Coffee Hour. I answer questions there as well. It's a little more goofy and chaotic, fair warning, because Linda's channel is called Caffeine and Chaos for a reason. So it's a little bit more cray-cray, a lot more rabbit trails, but we do have fun, but I do still answer them. And also, you can ask me questions in the Discord. I will try to answer them as much as possible. Do understand that I do also have to manage my work outside of just answering messages, because filming and editing takes a lot of work. All And I know one of the first things I want to do if I ever get big, I don't ever see me actually getting big as a YouTuber, but I would definitely hire someone to voice the meditations so I don't have to listen to my own voice when editing meditations. Yeah, Peachy, this Sunday we will be streaming the Magical Coffee Hour Sunday, 8 p.m., and it should be here on YouTube. So it should start on time, barring any technical difficulties, most likely from my end. Actually, it'd have to be from my end. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be this Sunday. I have no idea what Linda has in store for topic wise. We'll see if she even gives me a warning. She may just wait till everything's set up, get me live on camera, and then be like, here's what we're doing. Yay. Yeah, in Discord, there is an option for voice chats, which I'm hoping to utilize some. Yeah. What is my favorite elemental ruler to work with? Seems like I've answered this at one point because it's always a hard question. Because I enjoy working with all of them for so many different reasons. In fact, I had a really weird experience this week with two of them. But if I have to pick just one, it has to be the fire ruler. Because I don't know, something about his personality and the way he appears to me. He's just like one of the guys, you know? And I've told you all before that he appears as like an ambulance chasing lawyer. And it was like a week or two ago, I realized he actually looks like Saul Goodman from Better Call Saul. And I never realized that that's kind of the appearance he was taking in his humanoid form. But I don't know, just something about his personality, the way he jokes around, the way he presents his information to me. I always have so much fun working with him. And he has no problems picking on me, which that's something that I always, with me and my friends, we always pick on each other. So he's someone I can relate to really, really easily somehow. So he is definitely one of my favorite ones to work with. That said, earlier in the week, both the water ruler and the earth ruler just randomly decided to pop up and do their own little healing ritual on me without my calling them forward. That kind of startled me because you're sitting there working, and all of a sudden you feel hands on your arm. It's like, what the? So, yeah, that was fun. But yeah, Catherine, the fire ruler would definitely be the one I'd have to set aside as if I picked just one. But all of them have interesting aspects that I love working with them. The one I probably spend the most or the least time working with. I would say would probably be the chaos or the maelstrom ruler. Because they really don't joke around much at all. Especially Zergarath. Zergarath is like the biggest stick in the mud. Nice guy, great guy to work with, very knowledgeable, but I mean, you crack a joke and he just looks at you and it takes him a minute and he's just like, oh, that was humor. Moving on. So but you pretty much ask them. It's not that difficult. Especially when you got them running around your house. And in my case, when the TV went out, I was able to look over because I was about to get up and check for the power box until I realized the light above me was on because it seemed more like a power outage. But at that exact moment, my co-magician walked around the corner and was like, "Power's off, time to go. We got work to do." And he was following instructions from the current elemental rulers I'm working with for this path working. So yeah, that's how I can be sure. Let's see. Uh, Peachy, you know what? I think it was Wednesday. I think that might have been Wednesday night. Favorite dragon, not ruler. Okay, I didn't. Catherine, I'm going to have to cheap out on that one and say if I have a favorite dragon to work with, it's my co-magician. I know that kind of seems like a cheat, but I've worked with well over 70 dragons that I know and have built relationships with over the years. But my co-magician, me and him know each other so well. I mean, we are like best friends. We know each other inside and out. So there's just that unwritten communication and bond between us. If I'm ever in the dumps or down, he knows exactly what to do to make me feel better. He knows how to motivate me. All those little things. Yeah, there's two of them. The two little twin guardian dragons. They're anytime I'm live streaming, they will not leave the room. In fact, Peachy will tell you they love to play with the microphone a lot and make noise. But they're generally in the room, usually laying on either side back there. Is there an entity I regret working with? If you add the word regret, Mortimer, no. I've never actually worked with an entity that's freaked me out and I regretted working with. I mean, I've shared my stupidity of what I did the first time I approached the Clifothic tree, but that wasn't any entity's fault. That was my fault entirely. And at the end of it, I can't even say I regretted it because though it was like going through a meat grinder, I came out for the better. But no, I can't think of an entity that I've approached that I've ever regretted working with. I can think of entities that have pissed me off. Raphael being one, because I approached him one time about healing, and he was flat out refused because he's like, someone else is already working on this. It's already being dealt with. It's not my problem. And it's like, okay. So I had to go into further questions to attempt to get information on who the flip was already working on it. But I can't say I've ever worked with one that I regret. Now, has any of them actually freaked me out? Yes. There have been entities that have freaked me out pretty freaking bad when I first met them. In fact, Jormungandr, the first time I encountered that dragon, I was not expecting it. The ruler of the water dragons sent me to a location to speak with a dragon. And I was aware it was deep underwater, but I was not aware that it was actually that deep and that I would be facing a dragon like that. So it was one of those where I was close enough to the physical plane. I was expecting, a smaller dragon because the closer to the physical plane you are, they tend to size down. And so I'm just chilling out in just dark, dark waters. And all of a sudden the water itself lights up with the very aura of this dragon. And you just see this massive eye open and the lid roll back. And it startles me so bad because I was in soul travel at this time. I wasn't in scuba gear. That yeah, I freaked out and I jumped back in soul travel and was startled so much that it snapped me out of trance. And I'm actually physically moving now and jumping back to the point I jump up out of my meditative position and literally I'm jumping backward in my ritual room because I wasn't expecting some crap like that. So yeah, I can say there's entities that's freaked me out. Well, that's pretty cool to know, Peachy. Yeah, because I did not expect it. Like I said, I did not. And my arm, my wrist and elbow had been bothering me for the last week or so. I probably from all the editing and crap I've been doing. But no matter no stretches or nothing I could do would get it out. And then they showed up and they're like, "We'll fix it." Big bad magician me never even thought to ask them for help. That's usually my biggest problem is I forget to ask for help. Oh, Lord Cat, you probably did. There's actually a dragon that usually hangs around the house, Valen. Um, he technically would count as a guardian dragon, though he actually helps me with research and filing more than anything. And more often than not, he knows where my crap is better than I do. So if I'm looking for something, I usually ask him. And when it comes to the library of my astral sanctum, he won't even let me touch the books and he goes and gets them for me. He's like, "No, you'll mess up my system." He has his own little system. So yeah, and he actually really does look like a little serpentine oriental Mushu style dragon. A little less animated, but so yeah, the fact that many of you heard me mention him before, so yeah, I'd say that's the one you're seeing. The twins are slightly larger, unfortunately. Torga's pretty chill like that. He is. He's one of the more laid back dragons for sure. And that's the thing. Once you get that initial connection, they have no problem showing up on their own. And there are some dragons, they will take a liking to a person. And considering when I did that video, the reason I did a water dragon was you, Peachy. I mean, I told Torga, it's like this person called for a water dragon and everybody voted it, so you're up. So yeah, it's not surprising he took an interest in you. Apparently he likes you because he's still helping. Why did I use purple and red for the symbol? Oh, wait, you mean my logo? I was thinking about this thing back here. The three colors, purple, red, and black, they do have a large significance to me. First off, black is very protective, which you'll notice the background is always, I try to use a black background. I tried to work black into it in other ways. Background was just the easiest. It's very protective. It's a drawing thing. So if you're trying to draw things to you, black is a very great way to do it. It absorbs, it holds, it protects. It's also great for banishing and cleansing. Red is very projective. So that's the outward aspect where you're affecting things on the outside. So those two are both where you're trying to draw in and change the inward, and one where you're trying to project out and change outwardly. The purple comes into the spirit realm. Purple is highly, highly associated with the spirit realm, traveling the planes, soul travel, general occult mystical studies. So I chose those three colors because it really does encompass the totality of magic. So yeah, you are correct. There were reasons I picked them. But you wouldn't be wrong in guessing they are my favorite colors. Black and red are generally my go-to colors. And as a few of you saw, I do have a purple shirt that I wore on Magical Coffee Hour one night when I told you all I would dress up, which was Mortimer's fault. But yeah, I did actually dress up for that particular podcast, and I had a nice purple button-up shirt. Which I would buy more purple shirts. It's just they're really hard to find. Everyone I find is like this bright pastel-y purple, and if it's not the darker purple, I don't like it. so it's both practical and the colors do have meaning as to why we chose them. And the dragons did help design the logo, but yeah, they are also some of my favorite colors. Are you talking about the spider goddess in the Cliffothic tree? When you say Arachne? I mean, because if you are, I have worked with her a little bit during the path working I did last year through the meditation rites. But beyond that, I've not worked with her a lot. Well, Peachy, it looks like you got a response because I know a lot of people who, in one way or another, they got some kind of a healing this week. I'm not sure I understand the question. Or you mean trying to find out about the entity? Like, all right, let's say you wanted to work with Azazel and you don't know what Azazel's things are, what his areas of expertise are, and you wanted to find out what dragon could help you find those out. Is that what you're asking? Okay, now we went from entity to deity. So, but the same thing could work if I'm understanding the question. Occult, thank you for joining us, man. You get some sleep. Yes, I did. You remember when you were making jokes about me about a certain book series, and I made the comment that I dress better? And then you made a comment about I don't wear dress shirts. So I literally, I said next stream, which was the Magical Coffee Hour, I would put a dress coat and shirt on. And I did. Let's see. It honestly, generally speaking, my rule of thumb is if you want to learn about an entity, go to the entity. That's going to be your best source of information. And actually take time to work with them and get to know them. Check out my video on finding and connecting with entities or deities. That's actually the process I use for any entity. Now, that said, could you go to the elemental rulers to get advice on working with a particular entity? You could try. Since dragons do work, like I said, I've not found an entity they don't work with on some level. That means they would have some knowledge of a particular entity and could kind of steer you in a general census. of whether they think you two might click, and they could give you an idea of the areas that this entity might work in. And yes, I would say the more rulers that you can ask, the more accurate your information will be. Does that help some, Abraham? Because as far as specific ruler, it would really depend, because like the earth ruler, regardless of the entity they're working with, they're going to work with in a perspective that the earth ruler itself works in. And that entity may work in areas outside what the earth ruler works in. Because one thing, dragons are not all knowing. They know and they study and they have knowledge in their expertise. I know they have so much knowledge, they appear all knowing. But yeah, that whole all knowing concept doesn't quite fit them. It is true, if they applied themselves, they could gather the information, but that's a little different. The ability to get the info and just to know it is two different things. Mathis, is the Cliffoth scary to go through, as in dreams and visiting those realms, or is it challenging in a mental? Yes to all of that. Because the Cliffoth will challenge you, and it will force you to face the things you fear most, and it will force you to overcome the things that are weakest about you. It will throw you into the deep end of the pool to make you stronger and help you grow and better you. And I have never seen a gentle side of the Cliffoth. From my personal experience, but it is a great way to grow, strengthen, and improve, but there is no subtlety to it. And yes, because you are facing your fears and everything, it can get terrifying. And it is mentally, emotionally, and physically exhausting. I mean, there was times just while doing the meditation path working that, I mean, I was exhausted. You would have thought I was doing 7 days, 18-hour days at the gym. I felt so exhausted and burned out. But it was worth it, in my opinion. So it's one of those things where a person has to evaluate what path and is right for them and what they're willing to do. I'm a knowledge junkie. I'm a knowledge junkie. And here was this area that I wanted to know more about, and the best way to do it is to experience it. So I dove in. And it was rough, but as you all know, earlier this year, I started to do the invocation and evocation side of that same path working, where Lilith and Samiel put me on hold and sent me over to this draconic ritual, and I'm supposed to pick the Cliffothic side back up this fall. It was hard, but I did enjoy it. And yes, it did have its terrifying moments. I hope that answers your question, Mathis. Catherine, I've heard that, and I can actually see why. Because if you're not willing to work on overcoming certain things or healing them, I could see how that could actually mess with a person's mind. Let's just take emotional trauma. Not being specific, let's just use it as a broad category. Emotional trauma is one of the things that is some of the hardest things for people to overcome. Because first off, in order to overcome it, you have to face it head on. And then you have to turn that and examine yourself. And both of those things are very, very hard to do. And some of that is partly accepting that some things are what they are. They happen, they're there. You can't wash it away, but it also doesn't define you now. And it's really letting that go. And some people get so stuck on that that they can't let it go. They can't really face it. They can't learn to cope with it. And they can't understand why it's there. That they just get stuck in a loop and they can't deal with it. And in that case, yeah, I could see how that would drive a person crazy because, I mean, PTSD is a perfect example. It's something I struggled with. It's one of the things I had to face head on. And my first dive into the cliff off before I knew what I was doing, my PTSD is the primary thing the cliff off was smacking me around with. That's why that year was so rough. And mind you, again, that was my own stupidity. But I would not personally suggest anyone do what I did that first year. That was stupid. That's why I went and worked hard to find something a bit more guided and focused, like the path working I did last year. But if you do want to do it, know that you have to focus and you have to face those things. And it will be hard. But if you're willing to put the time and the effort in and you're willing to face that darker side and approach that healing, then it can be a very beneficial thing. But there is no halfway with the cliff off. If you're unsure, but you're wanting the path work like a tree of life thing, stick with the tree of life, not the cliff off. The tree of life, you can get similar results, but it's a bit more forgiving. Yep, like extreme therapy. It's kind of like if you're afraid of spiders, we're going to dump you in an Olympic-sized swimming pool full of nothing but spiders. So, yeah, you're going to crap your pants and pass out and probably have nightmares for a week, but you also won't have panic attacks every time you see a spider now. Yeah, it's that kind of extreme therapy. No, I'm just a man of my word. When I tell somebody I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Even if I'm joking, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm very liable to do it. I have not seen the Peace Talks trailer because a trailer for a book, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. Thoth is a tricky one to get to know, and part of his shtick is secrecy. So a lot of his friends and allies are not going to spill his secrets without his permission. And since the dragons would be counted as friends and allies, that's one of those where you kind of do have to go straight to him and talk to him to get that information. There's quite a few entities that do that. Odin's a great example. You can actually go to the dragons, talk to them, and ask them about Odin. They're going to tell you certain things. But if you were to ask them specifically about runic secrets dealing with the Norse runes, they're going to tell you to talk to Odin. Even if they know those secrets are Odin's to share, not theirs. That's part of what respect and honor is for a dragon. If that entity presents their information in a certain way or guards it in a certain way, the dragons will respect and honor that. So yeah, Thoth, I'm not sure how much information the dragons will get because he is pretty tight-lidded on his secrets. but he is also a good entity to work with. I know a lot of magicians who love working with him. I know the few times I worked with him, I enjoyed it. I can't say I've worked with him a lot, but I'm not really big on Egyptian. Um, but when I did work with him, I enjoyed it. Can we say the class will start in roughly 2 weeks? I'm checking my calendar here because I'm not falling into this. I would say roughly 3 weeks because technically 2 weeks is the 10th and my goal date is the 15th. So technically, you got that little square here. We'll actually show it. Like right here's the 15th. This whole square could count as the middle of April. But I do actually have the goal date as the 15th. I want it live on the 15th. See, I'm not about to go on camera and be like, yeah, 2 weeks, and then realize, oh crap, I just cut myself up. Mathis, there is a lot of similarities. In fact, a lot of the energy work in the Qliphoth I found very, very similar to Kundalini. Because Kundalini, once you open that energy up, you deal with it or suffer the consequences. And that's kind of a similar thing with the Qliphoth, which is why my first attempt was stupid. And for those who don't know, like Catherine, I know you're new. What I did is I got a book that only dealt with like 7 of the Qliphothic spheres. And while reading through the book, I also would literally open up the sigils and soul travel to the sphere and just poke around. So in 7 days, I opened 7 Qliphoths, poked around, didn't do anything else with them, but that energy is still flowing into my life. So for like the next year, those 7 Qliphoths were attempting to help me and teach me, and I had no idea. And I pretty much just let a tsunami loose on myself. Where you're supposed to go in, you're supposed to work, you're supposed to learn your lessons, you're supposed to complete it, you're supposed to move on, and there's actually supposed to be a complete closing. I didn't do that. Yeah, he does. Once you bond with, he loves to talk. Thoth is a talker. Me and him, that's really where we connected. We could just sit down and talk occult. I actually remember I did an evocation with Thoth. And I meant to do a quick evocation, and I was going to go do house cleaning, and I had a woodworking project, all this stuff I planned that day. Never happened because me and him started talking. Next thing I knew, it was bedtime. I have seen a lot of tealish and green colored ones, especially amongst water dragons, and a few amongst the air dragons. But most of them I've seen among water dragons. And they tend to hang out mostly in waters. Like if you've ever seen pictures of the Bahamas, that kind of really just gorgeous crystal clear water. And that's because they're using those color patterns as to blend in. But I have encountered them, and honestly, they're freaking gorgeous. Sophia, it's a rough thing to deal with. Um, but I know why I have mine, and I wouldn't change it because in order to have my PTSD, I had to help a lot of people. And if I didn't have it, those people wouldn't have been helped. So that's how I kind of make my peace. I admit I was stupid. I didn't, and yeah, it's even as an experienced magician, you're going to do stupid crap. And the big thing there is you got two options. You can blame the cliff off and be like, oh, that's a horrible, horrible thing. Look how awful it is. Or you can actually look at the magician and be like, look what you did, dummy. And the truth of the matter is, it was completely, utterly my fault. But I've told you all before, I have a tendency to jump in feet first, and I'm all in. And that if something goes wrong, if I do something stupid, it's usually that gets me in trouble. Oh yeah, that's the bad year I was talking about. Like last year when I did the full path working of all of the Cliffothic spheres, it was nowhere near that bad because each one I entered it, I had a process to follow, I path worked it, I got the lessons from it, I completed it, moved on to the next one. And those lessons continued to build and build and build. Yes, it was rough. Yes, it was exhausting, but it was nowhere near as crazy as what that other crap I did was. And when I concluded it, there was actually a full closing ritual also that closed off all that energy. And it's like, okay, you're done. Congratulations. So, if handled correctly, though it can be scary and exhausting, it's also far, far easier than being a dummy. Which, lesson learned, don't be a dummy. Yeah, the Mystic Darwin Award definitely went to me that year. Oh. It was one of those things where about halfway through the year, I'm trying to figure out what's going on because it was just crazy. And I actually was speaking with one of the dragons, and they're like, seriously? And they just spelled it out for me. They're like, look what you unleashed on your life. And you're surprised this is happening? And it's like, well, I technically didn't realize what I'd done. Well, it depends on what they mean. Because teaching, when it's coming from a dragon, teaching can mean a lot of things. That's something I have learned. And part of it could even be find your path, focus, learn it well enough, and begin to pass it on. Um, and one thing I'm noticing, and I'm sure a lot of people currently in the stream have noticed, interest in dragon magic and working with these entities, it has skyrocketed suddenly. Um, for the longest time, there were the books by DJ Conway. That was kind of it. That's what everybody utilized. And the dragons laid out essentially the lessons and path working that I've been teaching my students. And it was in such a small scale. And of course, the dragons were instrumental in me starting up my channel to teach magic. And when I posted my first video on dragon magic, which is in November, is when just everything just it took off, plain and simple. There is a real interest in these entities, and there's no info out there. And they're really pushing hard to get that info now published in a way that can be absorbed by multiple people. But that said, that singular path working that they're presenting through me, if you will, it isn't the end all be all either, because this is a path working that focuses strictly on magic. It takes out the dogma, and it's very nuts and bolts so that you can learn to work with the dragons and you can apply it to your path and develop your own gnosis. So I have no doubts that from this, there will be individuals who will have a completely separate path working, maybe perhaps more nature based, or even perhaps tree of life or clithophic based that will spring up from this. Because I seriously think the dragons are trying to reconnect with humanity. So I think we're just seeing that next stage in that process right now. And who knows, that could be what they're doing. Or they could be just guiding you to, it may not even be dragon magic. It may end up being a completely other topic, but you could end up being a really good teacher there. I mean, I never saw myself as a teacher. I really didn't. If you'd have told me I'd ever be a teacher, I wouldn't have believed you. Catherine, I did not. Okay, Catherine, a few little facts about me. First off, I do not like talking in front of crowds. Secondly, I am terrified and petrified of cameras and to be on camera. Do you see a problem with this in my current path? If you go and watch some of the first videos, especially like the introduction video, you can literally see me sweating to be on camera. And so, I mean, it's something you have to overcome. And it's been a huge experience for me. And I still am. I still am very, very nervous in front of the camera. I'm great at talking to people. So, like when you watch these streams, when you guys are asking questions and everything, I can talk to you like I'm talking to someone just sitting in front of me. But if it slows down enough that I realize I'm on camera, you'll notice I get nervous quick. And I try to keep that from happening. So it's that understanding yourself, finding your strengths and understanding your weaknesses as well. Because before I film a video and before I do a live stream, I will actually do a meditation and a ritual to prep and kind of get my resolve up so I don't make a complete fool of myself up in here. So yeah, you can be called to be a teacher and still be terrified of people. Yeah, it's totally doable. Because one of my big things, you asked how I got into teaching, one of my main reasons for not doing it, I don't like to speak in front of crowds, and I saw no way to teach without doing that. And I was right. You can't teach without doing that. But clearly, the dragons and many of the entities I work with had far other plans. Oh, no problem, Catherine. I'm happy to help. I've said it before, I will share my experience, even my screw ups, because I think it's important to know that even an experienced practitioner screws up. I think too many practitioners talk about their successes and, they're like, hey, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. And it sounds awesome. But they kind of leave out the fact that they also did these things over here that either just didn't work or they completely screwed it up altogether. And let's be honest, there's a reason there's so many stories of magicians blowing themselves up. Because, yes, in your experimentation, in your learning process, you're going to trip, you're going to fall, you're going to screw up. And you got to get up, recover, dust yourself off, and go at it again. Thanks, Mortimer. Yes, I am a caveman in a digital world who hates technology, and yes, I currently my the bulk of my business is actually gone fully digital. So yeah, there is an irony there. And I mean, if you go to the oh, what one was it? How to invoke or evoke an entity video where I demo it. We tried to film that video like 8 times, and the camera kept screwing up. And it was actually someone who doesn't practice magic who came up with the solution, because he's like, well, so circles aren't protective, but they contain energy, right? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, couldn't you just put the camera in a circle? Um, yeah, that might work. Which it did work pretty well. I mean, there was still some minor interferences, but we actually got the video done, thankfully. So you can get some of the best ideas and inspiration from people who don't even practice. I bought him a box of tacos for that because that was just great. You got to love the friends that work for tacos. All right. Uh, I don't think I can give him a Butters representation, because I'll be honest, this man is not amongst the smart of my friends. He's the one that, if something stupid happens, you usually think it's him. Sorry about that. Hey, David. Good to have you. Better late than never. We always end up with people wanting tacos in this stream because it seems like the one food that gets brought up most is tacos. What, this one? It's there. How's that? It actually goes all the way up, but I can't get my sleeve that high. Well, thank you. Thank you. I actually had a really hard time because there's several pieces on the sleeve that was done first. And I don't like the way they normally do scale patterns with tattoos because they all just look like copies. And I wanted it to look more organic. And it took forever to find a tattoo artist that was willing to do it, because he basically had to go in and tattoo each scale individually as a unique tattoo instead of just using a template. So, if any of you live in Washington State, Will at Night Owl Tattoo on Whidbey Island, freaking awesome guy. He's the one that did it. And I kind of miss not being in Washington State because I still haven't found a new tattoo artist. And I've got like 8 more I want, and I've been here over a year and no tattoo artist, and yeah, it's been rough. But thank you. I'm actually pretty proud of it. Even my mom, who doesn't like tattoos, and she started the comment with, "I'd rather you not have it," but that is really good work. Uh, Not to my knowledge, but that's not to say there isn't one here. There's not usually a blue one that hangs around. Though you will find that really small dragons do hang around the guardian dragons because guardian dragons kind of double as babysitters for other dragons. So it's not uncommon for random dragons to be flying through. I'm addicted to them, Catherine. It's kind of one of my old mentors got me hooked on them, so it's kind of a tradition. Both me and my wife have several. So, like, I got Carpe Noctem on this arm here, and I got Carpe Diem over here because you got that whole balance, seize the night, seize the day. Well, you probably did. Laugh at me all you want, Mortimer. But it's hard to find a good artist, and once you do, and you get that relationship built up, and you got to replace them, you become overly critical of anyone else. I know Will does a bunch of tattoo shows, and he said he does some over here sometimes. So I'm actually tempted to see if I can work it out so that I can meet up with him while he's out here just to get a tattoo. Catherine, my wife does not like needles at all, but she got a tattoo. She actually has several. The tattoo gun, it's really not like a needle at all. It's interesting. I know it is called a needle, and in basic technicality, it does kind of work like a needle, really, but it doesn't look like one. It doesn't feel like one. It's interesting. But it is a great way to help you get over your fear of needles too, because it's that in between point. So it is a good way to face that fear. And from a magician's standpoint, facing our fears is actually a great way to grow. So, yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely worth it. Just make sure what you get is something you want and has meaning to you. Don't go out and get a Tweety bird or a Tasmanian devil. You'll regret it. So, actually, there's several times during getting the sleeve where Will, he was just trying to get progress done, so he wasn't real talkative. And because we were actually on a deadline because the military is getting ready to move us. But so he would just be working and I would meditate while he was tattooing. I would just drop into a nice meditative state and just chill. It's a lot easier than you'd think. Because, yeah, those endorphins hit, and if you just relax, the same endorphins that hit when you're like watching an event that you enjoy, whether it be a sporting event or something, and you're cheering and rooting and you're happy and all that rush. It's actually a very similar feeling. So if you relax and you have that same high, it's actually easy to. You're in such a. The state feels so good and you're relaxed at the same time. Yeah, you'll fall right asleep. Most people have trouble relaxing when they're that high. They want to stay hyper and active. So that's the reason they don't fall asleep. But if you can get into that endorphin state and relax, yeah, falling asleep is pretty easy. But I would say start with something simple for your first one. Because my first one, they actually tried to talk me out of. It's up here, and it's probably about like that large. And I didn't think it would be that complicated because it looks like a Z with a line through it. It's a sigil. But where it's just pure black and it's solid, it's not like stonework or anything. I didn't understand that a solid line actually takes longer than something with some stylization to it because they have to keep going over it. And black's like the worst color because if you miss anything, it shows. So that's why they were trying to talk me out of it. But like something like the Carpe Diem, that was knocked out in like an hour or less. So. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off on tattoos here, but that's what I get. Yeah, the lines are definitely, yeah. A little black heart would be a good starter one. It really would. It's something that can be done, and if they actually, you could even put some gray shading into it, or even if it's a solid one, they're still not too bad. Oh, well, that's a good question because if you get a tattoo and you get it sigils tattooed, those sigils can be empowered. So that's an interesting concept because I mean, most of you know I have the runes tattooed on the underside of my arm here. And one of the reasons is it's kind of a traveling spell book for me. So I always have the runes and I can harness that power quick and easy. But when you talk about the Kabbalah and the Qliphothic trees and sigils or runes that would be associated with them, that is actually a fascinating ideal for a tattoo. And you see, you do have some control over whether the sigils would be open or closed, but the fact that they're tied to you would be tying you to those energies almost permanently in some fashion. So I would say if you're going to do a tattoo like that, make sure you are truly comfortable with working with those energy patterns and those spheres. And on both trees, if you're actually planning on getting both of them before you do it. If they're not constantly open, you should theoretically be okay. The kicker is if they open and you're unaware of it, because when a tattoo is actually done on your skin, in your flesh, in your blood. So if something comes into effect in your life that those energy patterns can help with, oftentimes a sigil or something like that will activate just because it can help you. And as a general rule, I don't consider that a bad thing because, hey, it's helpful, right? But my concern is how would that come into play with the Qliphothic? Because, like I said, I've not got a super large amount of experience, but the experience I have with the Qliphoth, even when it's helpful, it can get rough. So that's why it's an interesting concept. But I think it would be a fascinating tattoo. And there's a part of me I'm definitely more on the, yeah, it's an awesome idea. Let's do it, and less on the caution side. But there is enough of me on the caution side that I just wonder about it. Does that make sense, Mathis? Because it's really a fascinating ideal. And honestly, depending on how I end up enjoying my Qliphothic work, I won't lie, I've considered it. I have considered it. It's just not something at this time I have enough knowledge of the Qliphoth that it's a tattoo I'm wanting. Yes, I have accidentally used a rune or two. but it's never been anything that was overly dramatically bad. I actually would have no issue with those tattoos personally. And see this again, this is coming from the experience side because like I said, with the cliff off, I don't have enough experience where I could say comfortably that'd be something I'd do. But with guardian dragons and co-magicians, those are two entities you're going to be stuck with. Well, as long as you don't do something to disrespect them and piss them off your whole life. So they're going to know you, and they're going to be close friends, and they're going to have your back through most things. And even if it's, let's say you're facing something harsh, they're going to be helping you through it. So definitely those two, if you have a sigil for them, I would have no problem doing that at all. In fact, I have a tattoo on my leg of a yin yang that's designed with my two guardian dragons in it because, as y'all know, they refer to themselves as yin and yang, but they constantly, we don't know which one's which because they both answer to both. But I did get that tattooed on me. So I can actually say I have one. It's not a sigil, but it's still a representation of them, so it has that connection. Not Peachy. We'll probably be wrapping up soon anyway. I don't know how long we've been on, but yeah, we'll be wrapping up soon. But yeah, if you have a sigil, you could do that because they are going to help you through those hard times. As far as the rulers, I think I'm in the same space with those. Honestly, I wouldn't mind too much. The only two rulers I would possibly question would be the Maelstrom ruler and the Chaos ruler. Those would be the only two rulers that I would hesitate putting their sigil on me. But at the same time, if you've worked enough and you've gotten your life in order and you're absolutely certain you could walk into the Maelstrom element without any adverse side effects because you got your life balanced out and in order, I'd say you earned that tattoo. Gargoyles in general as entities are very protective, and they do protect the sites that they view as their territory and or home, or are assigned to. Are all gargoyles on old churches actual gargoyles? I don't think so. That said, I have seen a lot of churches that do have actual gargoyles. And by actual gargoyles, I mean the statue itself houses the entity and in it, not that it actually comes alive, flies around, and protects it. Though that would be freaking cool. But yeah, there are a lot of churches, hands down, that definitely the gargoyles are there protecting them. And you have to understand that most people see a church and to them it's a symbol of that religion. But more importantly, usually sacred sites are built on energy centers and ley lines. And those, regardless of religion, that energy is still an important thing. So gargoyles are usually more protective of the land in general, not just necessarily the religious site. Though at the same time, if a gargoyle does have a particular, maybe he likes the way they do things, they decorate, or even the way they sing, he could become particularly favorable to one over the other. But yeah, in my experience, a good chunk of those are actual gargoyles and do serve to protect. I would tend to say fae or dragon. Hellhounds, I've encountered them. In fact, they're one of my area. I love to research them because they're such a fascinating entity, and they have a very. There's a few things unique about them that other entities don't really have as much. So I'm not sure why you think it might be a hellhound, but if if I'm putting my money on a roulette wheel of entities, I would say dragon or fae. Because those are usually your largest culprits for playful activity like that. Um, yeah, I'd say dragon or fae. If it's a hellhound, it would be a very young one, because as hellhounds grow up, they become a little less playful and more serious. So, and I know this is silly because people's like, you're talking about a freaking hellhound pup, but let's be honest, it's a thing, and they do still have that kind of puppy playfulness. Though I'm not sure why a hellhound pup would be running around your house, because they're not often encountered because they are considered young and in danger. Uh, Catherine, technically no. By and large, as an umbrella, they're the same entities, though the names can have a cultural significance to some people. Um, but as an umbrella of the entities that fall under the two names, they're ultimately the same. So, like, Fae is usually incorporates a large grouping of entities that are very nature based and very magical in origin. And fairies are sometimes viewed as a category of Fae. Um, it really depends on the dragon's personality. Um, so looking at mine, yin and yang honestly are generally around this house somewhere all freaking day. Um, and I don't mean that to sound bad, but at the same time, they will run off, sometimes together, sometimes one at a time, to do whatever it is they do. At the same time, my co-magician, he actually does like his private time and his alone time. So he is the one that tends to leave more. And he also, I think he enjoys popping up at awkward times to startle me and surprise me, like the TV incident. Um, but yeah, so it really depends on that personality, though your co-magician and your guardian dragons are generally aware of what's going on around you at all times. They themselves may drift in and out some, or there's even times when they're there, but they will cloak themselves so you can't sense them. Because dragons are really good about hiding when they want to. And sometimes they'll do it just for a jump scare. Yes, they will. I can't tell you the number of times those two little guardian dragons have just jumped out of a well lit room like they just jumped out of the darkness to startle me. Yay for playful dragons, right? Yeah, I do see them with my arcane senses. To the best of my knowledge, without an extreme source of energy around, very few people have seen a dragon with the physical eye. And by extreme amounts of energy, the only time that I'm aware of that it was possibly seen with the physical eye is like in a burning house where a fire dragon has physically moved a firefighter out of the way when a beam fell. And they swear they saw it with their naked eye. The question is, did they actually see it with the naked eye, or was their senses heightened because of the adrenaline and they saw it with their senses? And that's where you get into that philosophical debate there. But yeah, you will be seeing them with your arcane senses. Now, some people don't like their senses opened all the time because it freaks them out. They see crap, they hear crap, and they get paranoid. I'm one of those people. I love having my at least my sight and hearing open practically all the time. So, but it's really up to the individual. Does being clairvoyant mean your third eye is open, or does it not mean? Okay, clairvoyant is where you're actually seeing. So that is where your third eye is open. Now, a lot of people, and this is something that bugs me. I do hear people like, I have this gift or this talent. I was born with this, and you have to have this gift. All the clairs, as people have called them, all your arcane senses, they can be trained and they can be learned by anyone. And anyone can open their third eye and be clairvoyant, as it were. I will say some people do have an easier time opening them for one reason or another. In that respect, I'll say one could be talented at it. But with time and work, anyone can have them and open them. But yeah, tapping into your arcane senses or any of the clairvoyant, clairaudiences, those are all tied to the third eye. So your third eye actually controls all of your arcane senses. So when you're training any of your arcane senses, you are working with that third eye and strengthening it and opening it and tapping into those senses. Is that what you were asking, Mathis? Oh yeah, they're laughing at me. Don't worry about that. I'm pretty sure I'm going to pay for it later too. There is a reason for that, Mathis. Your arcane senses and any magical ability is strongly tied to the subconscious. The conscious mind is, for lack of a better word, it's Mr. Spock. And it's going to try to logically debunk anything that you do. So all the social programming that we've had that tells us something is fiction, something is make-believe, yada, 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 it's throwing those at us constantly as it tries to logically figure out what we're doing. Whereas the subconscious, there is no logic. What is. It goes. So inebriation and stuff like that kind of quiet and dulls the logical mind, which allows the subconscious mind to take more control. And this is why meditation and trance is so important, because what you're doing is you're essentially quieting that conscious logical mind and tapping into that subconscious mind and bringing it forward. So there is a reason for that. Now, by and large, I can't say I particularly say one should rely on those. But everyone has their own path. I will say don't do anything illegal. Working Dragon Mystic does not support any illegal activities. Covering my own ass here. Wink, wink. But yeah, there is a reason for that. And there's in a lot of shamanic work, I mean, alcohol is used. So, I mean, in a lot of my Nordic rituals, I use beer and mead. So, yeah. Okay, I have never done that particular well, okay, let's be honest. Outside alcohol and tobacco, Drake ain't done much of anything. I'm a bore in those areas. But from reading science journals and their effects and stuff like that, and knowing individuals who's utilized them, yeah, you're definitely going to, yeah, obligatory legal disclaimer. Thank you. Yeah, those would definitely do it. There's a reason peyote was such a religious implement and sacred use for many of the Native American tribes. So, and well, before you pat me on my back for any morals or resisting peer pressure, it's my peers is why I don't, because my friends, I don't know about you all, but my friends, if I was to get drunk, stoned, or anything like this, I'm waking up super glued to a floor. So it's more paranoia. I love my friends, and I trust them with my life, but I don't trust them not to sew me to the bed or super glue me to a wall. In fact, I actually trust them to do just that. So, yeah, that's really the main reason I never had the urge to try such a thing. But over the years, I have I don't know. It's weird because I remember one time due to a ritual, it really, really just bottomed out my tolerance to alcohol. So, like one drink just totally screwed with me. And someone's like, "Well, that's what it's like to be buzzed and be drunk." And my one thought was, "Why would anyone do this to themselves willingly?" So if that was the truth and that's what somebody's telling me, then I wouldn't willingly want that. That's why if I drink, it's like I have a whiskey, I have a beer, a glass of mead. I don't overdo it. But I don't judge people who do. I don't understand why they lie. I don't enjoy the feeling. Again, if that person was accurate. The only way I'll ever know that is if I actually attempt to do it. Nope, not in the mood. Welcome to the family, Catherine. Now you kind of see why we end up talking for hours on end. but we do that kind of crap to each other. The worst one we ever did, the worst one. I actually feel bad about this, but I'm still going to laugh about it. We went camping, and there was this one guy. I mean, the dude was hairy as Chewbacca. Okay, just put that in your mind. And amongst a group of guys who always camped, he always insisted on sleeping buck naked, and we could not break him of this habit at all. And it wouldn't be so bad if he didn't get up in the middle of the night and just sashay to the restroom and not put anything on. So, us being the lovable, caring, good friends we are, one night he took a few sleeping pills because he's having trouble sleeping, and we mummified him in duct tape. And I'm talking duct tape thong, duct tape legs, arms, chest, everything. But we left his hands available because we didn't help him remove it. He had to take all that duct tape off himself. We're talking full body duct tape waxing. He started wearing clothes after that. See, we're good friends. Hey, in fairness, we gave him like 20 warnings before we did it. He called our bluff. Now, you know how it is when you give 20 warnings to one of your good friends and they call your bluff. At some point, you got to put up or shut up. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's not like we was like, dude, put some clothes on. No, and then we duct taped him. I mean, we are reasonable, if not mean. Though I will say most of my friends' wives will not let us all in one place around April Fools. And there's probably a good reason for that because it tends to escalate way too quickly. But in fairness, he would pull crap like that on us too. So it's one of those things where we have a mutual understanding of, you can't really get mad when someone pranks you because they would have done the same thing to you in the same circumstances. Well, thank you, Mortimer. I'm glad you understand. I'm glad Catherine understands too. Very few ladies tend to look at the antics of guys and be like, I get that. Even though at the same time, I've heard the antics of some women, and it's like, you guys are horrible to each other. How do you not understand what we do? You guys are vicious. But there are antics where we actually felt bad, to be fair, because same guy, unfortunately, I feel bad mentioning that, but he bought a surplus Army mummy sleeping bag and the zipper would stick. And it was 4th of July, and being the intelligent people we are, we're throwing firecrackers one at a time in the fire because we're bored. And he had gone to bed early. And the idiot from Texas, someone mentioned he was bored, and he's like, I know how to liven it up. He just grabs the whole bag and tosses it on the fire. You've now got grown men running into the woods, hiding behind trees, getting hit by bottle rockets and everything else. A few of them went into that poor guy's tent, landed on his sleeping bag. It did catch fire. He could not get out because the zipper was stuck. And all we could think to do to put him out when he started, because he was hopping out of his tent, we grabbed him and threw him in the lake. That's the best we could do to get him out quickly. Mind you, I was younger when this happened, so I was young and dumb. This was not something recent. This was years ago. I admit, Catherine, young and dumb. I totally admit it. Totally. And honestly, every one of us that night afterwards, we're sitting around the campfire, just looking at each other. It's like, we are idiots. It's one of those memories. It's funny. It's great to remember and talk about with the guys. But at the same time, this is a shining example of your stupidity when you were younger. And it's also a shining example of why I'm surprised I have made it to be 39 years old. So, I mean, someone was looking out for me. All right. So, before we go ahead and close out, and I make sure to get all the links I promised for the Patreon and the Discord, and yeah, those are the only links I need to make sure is up. Anybody got any other questions before I embarrass and remind you all how dumb I was when I was once young? Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you, Mortimer. I'm not. It's and the sad thing is, if you take us individually, all of us were actually pretty intelligent people. But there is some truth that every time you add a guy to a group of guys, all their IQs come down. I used to think it was a myth, but there is some truth to that. So, yeah, be careful. And also, I grew up in the South, which is pretty much where the term, hey, y'all, watch this, originated from. And it's definitely where Hold My Beer originated from. So, you take that and you start stacking it. Yeah, we get into stupid crap. And you're talking about people who have tornado and hurricane parties. Come on. We cook great. We're great people. We're nice as hell. We're awesomely ingenuitive, but we've been known to do stupid stuff. Yes, so far, Mathis, I am still on schedule for the 15th. If we hit some delay, I will be sure to let you all know, especially in the Discord. Which Agent K's quote? Now you got me curious. Yes, Catherine, it is. Go to YouTube and look up Toby Keith's trailer hood video. That video was inspired by the fact that in the South, we do have tornado parties and hurricane parties, where you will actually find people who go outside on the porch. They're cooking out, they're drinking, they're having a gathering and a picnic when there's supposed to be a hurricane or a tornado coming through. It's not uncommon to hear the phrase that if the wind doesn't hold you up, it's not a hurricane. It's just windy. Sad but true. The way we figure it, we're going to have fun and we're going to have a gathering. If this storm's taking us out, we're at least going to be hanging out with people we love and having fun when it does it. That's why we don't scare easy. Your guess is as good as mine. Honestly, if I hadn't got married, I probably would be dead, because the bit of self-preservation that I have really comes from the love for my wife, and I don't want her to come home and me not be there. As sappy as that sounds, it's kind of really the bulk of my self-preservation. Oh, that is yeah, that's actually perfect. You are yes, I always did love that quote by Kay. You're right. A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky animals. Yes. Yes. That is true. That is true. Man, she's really my motivating factor. She really is. It's kind of silly to say, but nothing tears me apart as bad as just seeing her upset or sad. I can't stand it. So, which is probably a good thing I'll never have kids, because God help me, my daughter would have me so whipped it wouldn't be funny. So, all right. Well, if there's no other questions other than currently making fun of Drake, which there's usually no shortage of, and I'm okay with that. At this point, you all are pretty close to being family, so that's cool. You're definitely in the friend loop. And Catherine, welcome. Welcome to the madhouse. Hopefully, we'll see you during the magical coffee hour on Sunday. And if not, I hope to see you at next week's Friday live stream as well. And Mathis, I do promise to keep everyone updated on the class. I'm doing everything I can to stay on schedule. At this point, Mathis, the only thing, the way the calendar's wrote out, the only thing that's going to delay me is if we have a technical malfunction. So it would have to be a complete computer problem, which honestly, with the lockdowns and stuff, that would really suck, because the ability to get crap fixed would be, oh God, that'd be bad. So, whether you're religious or magical, do whatever magic you do, pray to whatever God you pray to, or gods, that nothing goes wrong with my computers. You know what, Matt? Let me see if I can grab that link for you before I log off, because I do plan to put it in the description below, but let me see if I can get that. Because where Linda showed me how to do that thingy, I might be able to go ahead and get that for you. Did that go through? Because I just realized I done it on the computer that was the secondary, not the main. Yeah, I'm not showing it. Let me know if that went through, people. All right, let me try it on the main account. I screwed up and used the wrong mouse. This is why I'm open and honest with you about how bad I am at computers, so you can laugh at me as I screw up. And we can just share in the joy of the experience. And you also understand that if something doesn't happen, it's probably a computer problem. There it goes. It's showing now on both screens. Cool. That should do it. Wait. No. Crap. Are you kidding me? Did I use what? That ain't right. No, that's saying Discord. Hold on. What the heck? Huh. Okay, something's not right. That's saying it's a Discord link. See, leave it to me to screw it up, even when I think I got it working. Please, it worked this time. Please, please, please. Ah! Hey, I think I got it, people. No, Mathis, I actually set this up this week because you all have been asking for it. And I tried to set it up, and I wanted to make sure that there were some good offerings and it was worth it. That's one reason earlier when I said the Patreon was up, I also made a point to say I didn't go through and do custom images and all that stuff. I tried to do a video, but every time I recorded the video, I sounded like a used car salesman and didn't like it. So I told you straight up, I got the meat and bones up, and I'm hoping to improve it over time because I saw no reason to delay it with you guys asking for it just because it wasn't polished. Because it's up, it's functional, so let's get it going. But no, I think it's been live for about 3 days now, maybe only 2, because we were getting everything set up, figuring out exactly what we could offer, how we could offer, and how to integrate it with the Discord, those kinds of things. But yeah, you guys asked for it, and I told you I'd work on it, and I am a man of my word. Even if I'm really bad at technology, I am at least a man of my word. So no, it just got launched, and it was nice to be able to launch it as part of this 1-year anniversary of this little journey. And I do thank every one of you for being on this journey with me in this little madhouse, because you all have actually been very encouraging. It's really great to know that what I'm doing is helping so many people. So the sappy side of this stream is thank you very much for everything you all do to support the mission. So with that, I'd say we finish up our beverages and head on out. And hopefully I'll see some of you Sunday on the Magical Coffee Hour. And for those I don't, I'll see you next Friday, hopefully. Okay, you all have a wonderful evening. And as always, may your path always be blessed. Bye-bye.